Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the real conversations that matter most in your life. Before we jump into today's crucial topic, I want to ask you a favor. If this video resonates with you, helps you see something clearly, or gives you that light bulb moment you've been waiting for, please hit that like button. Your likes tell me that this content is making a difference in your lives, and it helps other women who need to hear this message find it too. And here's something really important. I want to hear from you in the comments. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your questions. This isn't just a one-way conversation. Your insights help build a community where we all learn from each other. Don't forget to share this video with any woman in your life who might benefit from this message. Sometimes we're the voice that another woman needs to hear. If you're new here, welcome to our family. We tackle the tough conversations about relationships, self-worth, and living your best life, especially as we navigate the waters of dating and relationships in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss content that could change your perspective. And if you really want to support what we're doing here, if these conversations are making a real impact in your life, consider showing your support with super thanks. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps us continue creating content that matters, that speaks truth, and that helps women live more empowered lives. Now, let's talk about something that's been weighing on my heart lately. I've been getting message after message from women, smart, accomplished, beautiful women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, telling me about relationships that started with so much promise but ended in disappointment, confusion, and sometimes even heartbreak. Here's what I keep hearing. He seemed so different from the younger guys I used to date. He was so mature, so stable. He knew exactly what to say. He made me feel so special, so chosen. But then, months or sometimes years later, these same women are writing to me confused, hurt, and asking themselves how they missed the signs. How did someone who seemed so perfect, so ready for a real relationship, turn out to be just another version of the same story? Today, we're going to talk about the red flag that too many older women are ignoring, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. It might not be what you expect. This isn't about obvious red flags like anger issues or financial problems. This is subtler and more insidious, and it's specifically targeting women who are in their prime dating years, women who have experience, who know what they want, and who aren't playing games. The primary red flag, love bombing. Disguised as maturity, the red flag I'm talking about is sophisticated love bombing, manipulation that's been refined over decades and specifically designed to appeal to older women who are looking for genuine connection and stability. Here's how it works and why it's so dangerous. When we're younger, we might fall for the flashy guy, the one with the sports car and the grand gestures. But as we get older and wiser, we develop better radar for those obvious players. We want substance. We want emotional intelligence. We want a man who's done the work on himself, and predatory men know this. They've learned to speak our language. The sophisticated love bomber doesn't overwhelm you with expensive gifts or over-the-top romantic gestures that would make your friends roll their eyes. Instead, he overwhelms you with exactly what you've been craving: deep conversation, emotional availability, future planning, and what feels like genuine interest in who you are as a person. He remembers everything you tell him. He asks thoughtful follow-up questions. He shares what appears to be vulnerable information about his own past. He talks about his growth, his therapy, and his lessons learned from previous relationships. He uses all the right vocabulary about healthy relationships, boundaries, and emotional intelligence. This is why it's so dangerous for older women specifically. We've developed immunity to the obvious red flags, but we haven't necessarily learned to recognize manipulation that comes wrapped in everything we actually want and need. How this differs from genuine interest now, I know what you're thinking. How is this different from a man who's genuinely interested and emotionally mature? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The difference lies in several key areas, and learning to spot these differences could save you months or years of heartache. First, let's talk about pacing. A genuinely interested man will be consistent, but he won't be overwhelming. He'll want to get to know you, but he won't make you feel like you're the only thing in his life from day one. He'll have his own life, his own interests, and his own commitments that continue even as he's getting to know you. The sophisticated love bomber, on the other hand, makes you feel like you're the most fascinating person he's ever met immediately. He's available whenever you need him. He drops everything to spend time with you. He makes you feel like you're his priority before you've even established what kind of relationship you're building together. Second, let's examine the vulnerability sharing. A healthy man will open up gradually. He'll share appropriate levels of personal information as trust builds between you. His vulnerability will feel natural and reciprocal. He shares, you share, and the relationship deepens organically. The love bomber shares big, dramatic stories early. He tells you about his difficult divorce, his struggles with his ex-wife, his journey of self-discovery, and his realization about what he really wants in a woman. These stories are designed to make you feel special, like he's never opened up to anyone like this before, like you're different from all the other women he's known. Third, observe how he handles boundaries and independence. A healthy man will encourage your independence. He'll want to meet your friends and family, but he won't need to be included in every aspect of your life immediately. He'll respect when you need time for yourself, your other relationships, and your personal interests. The sophisticated love bomber will seem to respect your independence while subtly undermining it. He'll say all the right things about how important it is that you have your own life, but then he'll create little emergencies or special opportunities that just happen to conflict with your other plans. He'll make you feel guilty for choosing anything over time with him, while never directly saying that's what he's doing. The technology factor there. It's another aspect of this that's particularly relevant for women our age, and that's how technology plays into sophisticated love bombing. Many of us didn't grow up dating in the digital age. We learned to read people face-to-face in real-time interactions. But modern manipulation often happens through text messages, phone calls, emails, and social media interactions that can be crafted, edited, and strategically timed. The sophisticated love bomber uses technology masterfully. He sends good morning texts that seem sweet and thoughtful. He shares articles that are perfectly aligned with your interests. He sends photos that give you glimpses into his day. He calls at just the right times with just the right tone. But here's what's happening. He's creating an artificial sense of intimacy and connection through constant digital contact. You start to feel like you're sharing a life with him before you've actually spent enough in-person time to truly know him. This is particularly effective with older women because many of us are relieved to find a man who's good at communication and seems emotionally available. We might not realize that constant digital contact isn't the same thing as genuine emotional intimacy. Pay attention to this pattern. Does your connection feel much deeper over text and phone than it does in person? Do you find yourself feeling closer to him through your digital interactions than you do during your actual dates? This could be a sign that you're experiencing manufactured intimacy rather than genuine connection. The future faking component. One of the most insidious aspects of sophisticated love bombing is future faking, and this is something that particularly targets older women because we're often looking for partners who are serious about building a real future together. Future faking is when someone makes plans and promises about a future together that they have no intention of following through on. But it's not just about big promises like marriage or moving in together. Sophisticated future faking is much more subtle and believable. He talks about the vacation you'll take together next summer. He mentions how you'll spend the holidays. He discusses meeting each other's children or grandchildren. He includes you in his mental planning for everyday things, the restaurant he wants to try with you, the movie he's saving to watch with you, and the home improvement project he'd love your input on. These conversations feel wonderful because they make you feel like you're building something together. They make you feel chosen, planned for, and included in his vision of his life. But here's the key difference between future faking and genuine future planning: timing and consistency. When a man is genuinely interested in building a future with you, he'll make concrete plans in the near term and speak more generally about the longer term until you've both established that you want the same things. He'll follow through on the small future plans consistently. If he says he wants to try that new restaurant with you next week, he'll actually make the reservation and take you there. The future faker makes elaborate long-term plans without following through on simple short-term ones. He'll talk about the amazing trip you'll take together while consistently cancelling or rescheduling your actual dates. He'll paint beautiful pictures of your future while being unreliable in your present. The comparison game, another aspect of sophisticated love bombing that specifically targets older women, is the comparison game. This is when he positions you as different from and better than other women he's known, particularly his ex-wife or recent ex-girlfriend. This feels wonderful to hear, especially if you've been in the dating pool for a while and have experienced rejection or disappointment. When a man tells you that you're more mature, more understanding, more interesting, and more beautiful than other women your age, it feels like recognition of your value. But healthy men don't build you up by tearing other women down. A man who's truly ready for a healthy relationship will speak respectfully about his past relationships, even when they didn't work out. He'll take responsibility for his part in past failures without making his ex-partners sound crazy, immature, or unreasonable. The love bomber uses comparison as a manipulation tool. He tells you his ex-wife never understood him like you do. He says women his age are usually too set in their ways, but you're different. He compliments you by contrasting you with other women in ways that make you feel special and chosen. This serves several purposes in his manipulation. It makes you feel unique and special. It creates an us-against-the-world dynamic. It subtly warns you not to behave like those other women if you want to keep his attention and approval. And it plants seeds for future blame if you start questioning his behavior or asking for what you need. When he starts treating you poorly, he can point back to these conversations and suggest that you're becoming like all the other women who disappointed him. You'll find yourself trying to prove that you're still the special, understanding woman he fell for, instead of recognizing that his behavior is the problem. The isolation strategy, sophisticated love bombers are masters of gradual isolation, but they do it in ways that feel like natural relationship progression rather than manipulation. In healthy relationships, partners naturally start spending more time together as the relationship develops, but they maintain their other relationships and interests. A healthy partner encourages you to maintain your friendships, supports your family relationships, and shows interest in the activities and hobbies that make you happy. The sophisticated love bomber appears to support all of these things while subtly undermining them. He'll encourage you to spend time with your friends while making little comments about how some of them seem negative or don't really understand you. He'll support your family relationships while pointing out ways that your family members don't appreciate you or treat you as well as they should. He becomes your biggest supporter and closest confidant, which feels wonderful, but gradually he becomes your only supporter and confidant. You stop sharing relationship concerns with friends because he's convinced you that they just don't understand what you two have together. You stop seeking advice from family members because he's shown you how their advice isn't really in your best interest. This is particularly effective with older women because we often do have complicated family relationships and friendships that have been strained by life's various challenges. It's believable when he points out that your sister has always been jealous of you or that your best friend gives advice based on her own failed relationships rather than what's actually best for you. But healthy partners don't position themselves as your only source of support and understanding. They want to be integrated into your support system, not replace it. The expertise trap. Here's another red flag that specifically targets accomplished older women. The expertise trap. Many of us have spent decades building careers, raising children, managing households, and developing expertise in various areas of life. We're competent, capable women who are used to being respected for our knowledge and abilities. The sophisticated love bomber initially appears to value and respect your expertise. He asks for your advice, he compliments your intelligence, and he seems impressed by your accomplishments. This feels wonderful, especially if you've been undervalued or taken for granted in past relationships. But gradually, he begins to position himself as having superior knowledge or judgment in areas that matter to your relationship. He might defer to your professional expertise while subtly undermining your judgment about people relationships, or decisions that affect your life together. He'll say things like, "You're so smart about business, but you're too trusting when it comes to people." Or, "You're an amazing mom, but you're too hard on yourself about relationships." Or, "You're so accomplished, but you don't realize how much you deserve." These statements seem supportive on the surface, but they're actually undermining your confidence in your own judgment while positioning him as the person who really understands you and can guide you toward better decisions. This is particularly insidious because it takes advantage of areas where many accomplished women actually do struggle with self-doubt. We might be confident in our professional lives but uncertain about dating and relationships. We might be strong advocates for others but struggle to advocate for ourselves in romantic relationships. The love bomber identifies these areas of uncertainty and positions himself as your guide and protector in those areas, while gradually expanding his expertise into more and more areas of your life and decision-making. The energy vampire effect. One of the most important things to understand about sophisticated love bombing is that it's designed to be addictive. The love bomber creates intense highs followed by subtle lows, training your brain to constantly seek the high of his approval and attention. This is particularly effective with older women because we often have the life experience to appreciate genuine attention and affection when we receive it. We're not playing games or taking good treatment for granted. When a man treats us well, we're genuinely grateful and appreciative. But the love bomber doesn't provide consistent good treatment. He provides intense good treatment followed by periods of subtle withdrawal. He's not mean or obviously manipulative during the withdrawal periods. He's just a little less available, a little less enthusiastic, and a little less focused on you, your brain, which has become accustomed to the intense attention and affection, interprets this as a problem to be solved. You start working harder to get back to that initial level of connection and attention. You become more accommodating, more available, and more focused on making him happy. This is the energy vampire effect. You start pouring more and more of your energy into the relationship, while receiving less and less genuine nourishment in return. But because the highs are so high when they occur, you keep believing that you're in a relationship with amazing potential that just needs a little more work from you to flourish. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with him versus how you feel after spending time with genuinely supportive friends or family members. Do you feel energized and appreciated, or do you feel like you need to recover? Do you feel more confident and secure, or do you find yourself analyzing every interaction and wondering where you stand? The success story, manipulation. Another sophisticated manipulation technique that targets older women specifically is what I call success story manipulation. This is when he shares carefully crafted stories about his past relationships or personal growth that make him seem like exactly the kind of man you've been hoping to. And he tells you about how his marriage ended because he wasn't emotionally available enough. But he's done years of therapy and learned how to be a better partner. He shares how he used to be a workaholic, but has learned to prioritize relationships and work-life balance. He explains how he's learned from his mistakes with previous girlfriends and now knows how to treat a woman. Right, these stories are incredibly appealing to older women because they suggest that you're dealing with a man who has self-awareness, who has grown and changed, who has learned from his experiences. Exactly what we hope to find in men our age. But here's the trap. These stories are often either completely fabricated or carefully edited versions of the truth designed to tell you exactly what you want to hear. And even if they contain elements of truth, they're being shared not as genuine vulnerability, but as marketing materials to convince you that he's the transformed man you've been looking for. The man who has genuinely done the work of personal growth will demonstrate it through his consistent behavior, not through stories about his transformation. You'll see evidence of his emotional intelligence, his healthy relationship patterns, and his ability to take responsibility and communicate effectively. The manipulator tells you stories about his growth while demonstrating the same problematic patterns he claims to have overcome. But the stories are so compelling and align so perfectly with what you want to believe that you focus on the words rather than the actions. The empathy exploitation. One of the most sophisticated aspects of modern love bombing is empathy exploitation. taking advantage of older women's natural empathy and life experience to create artificial emotional intimacy. As we get older, most of us develop greater empathy and emotional intelligence. We've experienced loss, disappointment, struggle, and recovery. We understand that life is complicated and that people can change and grow. We're less likely to write someone off for minor flaws or past mistakes. The sophisticated love bomber exploits these qualities by sharing carefully crafted stories designed to trigger your empathy and make you feel like you understand him on a deep level. He tells you about his difficult childhood, but not in a way that makes him seem damaged or like a victim. Instead, he presents these experiences as having shaped him into the thoughtful, appreciative man he is today. He shares stories about his struggles with his ex-wife, but positions himself as having been patient and understanding even when she wasn't. He talks about his challenges with his children, his aging parents, and his career setbacks, but always in ways that make him seem noble, patient, and resilient rather than bitter or irresponsible. These stories serve multiple purposes. They make you feel like you're seeing the real him beyond the surface. They trigger your natural desire to offer support and understanding. They create a sense that you two have a special connection because you get him in ways that others don't. And they establish a dynamic where you're in the role of supporter and emotional caretaker. From early in the relationship, the key difference between genuine vulnerability and empathy. Exploitation is reciprocity and appropriateness. Genuine vulnerability is shared gradually in response to growing trust and intimacy, and it's balanced with interest in your experiences and emotions. Empathy exploitation involves overwhelming personal sharing early in the relationship, designed to trigger your caretaking instincts and make you feel special for being trusted with such personal information. The independence paradox, one of the most confusing aspects of sophisticated love bombing for older women, is what I call the independence paradox. This is when a man claims to love and value your independence while systematically undermining it. Many older women have worked hard to build independent lives. We've learned to be self-sufficient, to trust our own judgment, and to create lives that fulfill us whether we're in relationships or not. When we do choose to be in relationships, we want partners who value and support our independence rather than seeing it as a threat. The sophisticated love bomber seems to understand this perfectly. He tells you how refreshing it is to meet a woman who has her own life, her own interests, and her own financial stability. He says he's tired of needy, dependent women and appreciates your strength and self-sufficiency. But pay attention to what happens over time. Does he actually support your independence, or does he just say he does while creating situations that require you to choose between your independence and your relationship with him? For example, he might say he loves that you have such a strong friendship with your college roommate, but then consistently plan special date nights or mini getaways that conflict with your standing monthly dinner plans with her. He doesn't forbid you from seeing your friend. That would be obvious manipulation. Instead, he creates competing opportunities that make you feel like you're choosing between your friend and experiences with him, or he might express admiration for your career dedication while frequently having relationship crisis moments that require your attention during your work hours. He doesn't directly ask you to prioritize him over work, but he creates situations where you feel you need to choose. Over time, you find yourself gradually giving up pieces of your independent life, not because he asked you to, but because maintaining the relationship seems to require these sacrifices. And because he's never directly asked you to give anything up, you don't even realize that your independence is being systematically eroded. The maturity mirage, perhaps the most dangerous aspect of sophisticated love bombing for older women, is the maturity mirage manipulation. That's disguised as emotional maturity and relationship readiness. When we're dating in our 40s, 50s and beyond, one of the things we're most hoping to find is genuine emotional maturity. We want partners who can communicate effectively, handle conflict constructively, take responsibility for their actions, and work together to build something meaningful. The sophisticated love bomber has learned to mimic all the signs of emotional maturity without actually possessing the substance behind them. He uses therapy, language and concepts, but applies them in manipulative ways. He might talk about the importance of boundaries while consistently pushing yours. He might discuss the value of honest communication while being strategically dishonest about his intentions or other relationships. He appears to handle conflict maturely by never seeming to get angry or upset. But this isn't actually emotional regulation, it's emotional manipulation. He stays calm because he doesn't actually care about the outcome of your disagreements. He's not invested enough in the relationship to have genuine emotional responses to relationship problems. When you bring up concerns or issues, he responds in ways that seem mature and understanding, but nothing actually changes. He validates your feelings without changing his behavior. He apologizes sincerely without making different choices. This is particularly confusing for older women because we've learned to value emotional intelligence and communication skills. We know that the ability to discuss problems calmly and rationally is important for relationship success, but we might not recognize the difference between someone who can talk about problems maturely and someone who can actually resolve problems maturely. The grandmother factor there. As another aspect of this that specifically affects women who are grandmothers or are hoping to become grandmothers. The sophisticated love bomber often uses family dynamics and grandchildren as manipulation tools. He expresses genuine interest in your children and grandchildren. He asks about them, remembers their names and important events, and seems to understand how important they are to you. This feels wonderful, especially if you've dated men who seem threatened by or uninterested in your family relationships. But gradually, he begins to insert himself into these relationships in ways that create dependence and obligation. He offers to help with grandchildren, he provides transportation or financial assistance, and he becomes involved in family events and celebrations. On the surface, this seems like wonderful relationship progression, a man who embraces your family and wants to be involved in your life. But pay attention to the underlying dynamics. Does his help come with strings attached? Does he make you feel guilty when you want to spend time with family without him? Does he create situations where your family members feel obligated to him? Does he position himself as more helpful or understanding than other family members? The goal of this manipulation is to make you feel like you can't afford to lose him because he's become too integrated into your family system. Your grandchildren love him, your adult children depend on him, and your family events include him. Leaving the relationship would disrupt not just your life, but the lives of people you love. This is particularly effective with older women, because our relationships with our adult children and grandchildren are often central to our sense of purpose and meaning. The thought of disrupting these relationships or disappointing our family members can keep us in relationships that aren't healthy for us. The health and aging manipulation. One of the most insidious forms of manipulation that targets older women specifically involves exploiting our concerns about health, aging, and future security. As we age, most of us become more aware of our mortality and more concerned about having support and companionship as we face the challenges of aging. We might worry about being alone if we become ill, about having someone to share the later years of our lives with, and about finding love and partnership while we're still healthy and vital enough to enjoy it. The sophisticated love bomber identifies these concerns and uses them as leverage. He positions himself as your partner for the long haul, your companion for aging, and your security against the uncertainties of the future. He talks about growing old together, about being there for each other through health challenges, and about creating a life that will sustain you both through retirement and beyond. He might discuss practical matters like healthcare decisions, financial planning, or end-of-life care in ways that make you feel like you're building security together. But these conversations often serve to create anxiety about being alone rather than genuine excitement about being together. He might make subtle comments about how difficult it must be for single women your age, how sad it is to see older people who are alone, and how lucky you are to have found each other when you did. The message is clear. You need this relationship for your future security and happiness. Without it, you'll face the challenges of aging alone. This manipulation is particularly cruel because it exploits some of our most vulnerable fears and concerns. But a healthy partner doesn't use your fears as relationship leverage. A healthy partner helps you feel more confident and secure, not more dependent and anxious. The sexual manipulation component. Need to address the sexual component of sophisticated love bombing because it's often overlooked in discussions about older women and dating, but it's a crucial piece of the manipulation puzzle. Many women our age have experienced years or even decades of unsatisfying sexual relationships. We might have been in marriages where sexual intimacy declined over time, or we might have dated men who weren't particularly interested in our pleasure or satisfaction. The sophisticated love bomber often makes sexual satisfaction a cornerstone of his manipulation strategy. He positions himself as the lover you've been waiting for, someone who truly understands and prioritizes your pleasure. In the early stages of the relationship, he might be incredibly attentive to your sexual needs and desires. He asks what you like, he pays attention to your responses, and he makes you feel beautiful and desirable in ways that you might not have experienced in years. This sexual attention serves several manipulation purposes. It creates intense bonding and attachment. It makes you feel like you've found something rare and special that you might not find elsewhere. It becomes another form of intermittent reinforcement when he later becomes less attentive or available sexually. But pay attention to the overall pattern. Is his sexual attention part of a consistent pattern of care and attention to your needs? Or does it exist in isolation from other forms of emotional and relational care? Does he use sexual satisfaction as a way to avoid deeper emotional intimacy? Does he become less sexually attentive as he becomes more confident of your attachment to him? Does he use sex as a way to resolve conflicts without actually addressing underlying problems? Healthy sexual relationships are integrated with overall relationship health. Sexual satisfaction should enhance emotional intimacy rather than replace it, and sexual attention should be consistent rather than used as a manipulation tool. The financial manipulation angle. While financial manipulation might seem obvious, sophisticated love bombers often use money and financial security in subtle ways that specifically target older women's concerns and vulnerabilities. Many women our age have experienced financial insecurity at some point in our lives. We might have taken career breaks to raise children, experienced financial setbacks due to divorce, or be concerned about retirement security. We often value financial stability and security in potential partners. The sophisticated love bomber presents himself as financially stable and generous, but uses money as a manipulation tool rather than as a genuine expression of care and partnership. In the early stages, he might insist on paying for dates, trips, or experiences in ways that seem generous and caring. He might offer to help with expenses, repairs, or financial challenges you mention. This feels wonderful, especially if you've dated men who were stingy or expected you to pay your own way for everything, but pay attention to how he handles money over time and what expectations come with his financial contributions. Does his generosity come with strings attached? Does he keep track of what he's spent on you and bring it up during arguments? Does he use his financial contributions as justification for having more say in relationship decisions? Does he create financial dependence by encouraging you to rely on his contributions instead of maintaining your own financial independence? Or conversely, does he present himself as financially struggling in ways that trigger your caretaking instincts? Does he share financial problems that make you want to help or support him? Does he create situations where you feel obligated to contribute financially to his needs or wants? Both scenarios are manipulation, using money to create dependence or obligation rather than as a natural expression of partnership and care. Social media and public persona manipulation. In today's digital age, social media plays a significant role in modern relationships, and sophisticated love bombers use social platforms as manipulation tools in ways that specifically target older women. Many of us didn't grow up with social media, so we might not be as aware of how it can be used manipulatively in relationships. We might take social media behavior at face value rather than recognizing it as potentially strategic. The love bomber uses social media to create a public narrative about your relationship that serves his manipulation goals. He might post photos of you together that make the relationship look more serious and committed than it actually is. He might make public declarations of love and appreciation that seem romantic but are actually designed to create public pressure and expectation. He uses social media to love bomb you publicly, commenting on your posts in ways that make you look loved and appreciated to your friends and family, posting about special things he's doing for you, and sharing photos that make your relationship look idyllic. This public love bombing serves several purposes. It makes you look good to your social network, creating pressure to stay in the relationship to avoid public embarrassment. It creates a false narrative of relationship success that makes it harder for you to acknowledge problems privately. It makes your friends and family less likely to question the relationship or offer concerns because everything looks so perfect online. Pay attention to the disconnect between his public social media behavior and his private relationship behavior. Is he more attentive and romantic online than he is in person? Does he seem more committed to the relationship on social media than he does in your actual interactions? Also notice if he discourages you from posting about other aspects of your life or other relationships. Does he seem to want your social media presence to be primarily focused on your relationship with him? The crisis creation pattern, one of the most sophisticated manipulation techniques used by love bombers targeting older women, is crisis creation. Manufacturing emergency situations or problems that require your support, attention, or resources. Because older women often have life experience dealing with genuine crises and emergencies, we're typically responsive when someone we care about is facing difficulties. We know how important it is to have support during challenging times, and we want to be the kind of partner who shows up when needed. The manipulative man creates or exaggerates crises specifically to test your commitment, create bonding through shared stress, and position himself as someone who needs your care and support. These crises might involve health scares that turn out to be minor, work problems that seem catastrophic but resolve quickly, family emergencies that require your emotional support but don't actually exist, or financial emergencies that need your help but aren't actually urgent. The pattern to watch for is this. The crises always seem to occur at times when they pull you away from other commitments or relationships. They always require significant emotional or practical support from you. They often resolve in ways that make him seem heroic or resilient, and they increase in frequency as your relationship progresses. Genuine life challenges and emergencies do happen in real relationships, and supporting each other through difficult times is part of a healthy partnership. But manufactured crises are different because they're designed to manipulate rather than to seek genuine support. Pay attention to timing, frequency, and outcomes. Do his crises always seem to coincide with times when you have other plans or commitments? Do they require you to drop everything and focus on him? Do they create drama and intensity that makes your relationship feel more significant and bonded? Do they resolve in ways that make you feel more essential to his well-being? The expertise undermining cycle earlier. I mentioned the expertise trap, but there's another layer to this manipulation that's important to understand. The expertise undermining cycle. Many older women have spent decades developing professional expertise, life skills, and wisdom. We're often competent at managing our finances, our careers, our households, and our relationships with family and friends. The sophisticated love bomber initially celebrates and defers to your expertise in these areas. He compliments your competence, asks for your advice, and seems impressed by your capabilities. This feels wonderful and validating, but gradually, he begins to undermine your confidence in your own judgment and abilities. He doesn't do this directly or obviously. Instead, he plants seeds of doubt about your decisions and approaches. He might suggest that you're being too trusting in a business situation, too harsh in a family conflict, too conservative with your finances, or too generous with friends who don't appreciate you. His suggestions always come from a place of seeming care and concern for your well-being. Over time, you start second-guessing yourself in areas where you used to feel confident. You start running decisions by him that you would normally make independently. You start deferring to his judgment in situations where you have more expertise or experience. This gradual erosion of confidence in your own judgment makes you more dependent on his guidance and approval. It also sets the stage for him to take more control over decisions that affect your life. The key to recognizing this pattern is to notice whether your relationship makes you feel more confident and capable over time, or less so. Healthy relationships should enhance your sense of competence and self-efficacy, not undermine it. The retirement and future security manipulation for women who are approaching or in retirement. There's a specific manipulation tactic that exploits concerns about financial security, healthcare, and aging. The sophisticated love bomber presents himself as your solution to retirement concerns and aging challenges. He talks about combining resources, sharing healthcare costs, providing mutual support through health challenges, and creating economies of scale by sharing living expenses. These conversations can be very appealing because retirement and aging concerns are real and practical. Having a partner to share these challenges with can make financial and practical sense, but manipulative men use these practical concerns as leverage to rush relationship commitment and create financial entanglement before you've had time to truly evaluate the relationship. They might suggest moving in together quickly to save money on housing costs, combining finances to maximize investment returns, or making joint purchases that create financial entanglement. Pay attention to the timing and pressure around these suggestions. Is he pushing for financial entanglement or major life changes before you've established genuine trust and commitment? Is he using practical concerns about aging and retirement to create urgency around relationship decisions? Healthy relationship progression includes practical planning for the future, but it happens after you've established genuine compatibility and commitment, not as a way to create artificial urgency or dependence. The memory and gaslighting component, one of the most insidious aspects of sophisticated manipulation targeting older women, involves exploiting concerns about memory and cognitive changes that can occur with aging. Many women become more concerned about memory changes as they get older. We might notice that we don't remember conversations or details as clearly as we used to, or we might worry about early signs of cognitive decline. Manipulative men sometimes exploit these concerns by gaslighting, making you question your memory and perception of events. They might deny conversations that you remember having, claim that you misunderstood plans or agreements, or insist that events happened differently than you remember. When you question these discrepancies, they respond with concern about your memory or stress levels rather than taking responsibility for the inconsistencies. They might suggest that you're forgetting things because you're overwhelmed, stressed, or not sleeping well. This is particularly cruel manipulation because it exploits a legitimate concern that many older women have about cognitive changes. It makes you doubt not just your memory of specific events, but your overall mental reliability. Trust your instincts about this. If you find yourself constantly questioning your memory of conversations and events in your relationship, if you're making notes to keep track of what was said or agreed to, if you're second-guessing your perception of situations, these are red flags that you might be experiencing gaslighting. Healthy partners don't make you question your sanity or memory. They work with you to resolve misunderstandings and communicate clearly to avoid confusion. The adult children, manipulation for women with adult children. There's often a specific manipulation tactic that involves creating tension or competition between your relationship with your partner and your relationships with your children. The sophisticated love bomber initially seems very understanding and supportive of your relationships with your adult children. He recognizes how important these relationships are to you and appears to want to support and enhance them. But gradually, he begins to plant seeds of doubt about your children's motivations and behavior toward you. He might suggest that your daughter doesn't appreciate how much you've sacrificed for her, that your son takes advantage of your generosity, or that your children are too demanding of your time and attention. He positions himself as your advocate and protector against children who don't treat you as well as you deserve. He becomes the voice pointing out when your children are being unreasonable, ungrateful, or demanding. This manipulation is particularly effective because relationships with adult children can be complex and challenging. There are often legitimate areas of tension and disagreement, and it can feel validating to have someone who seems to understand your perspective and support your feelings. But healthy partners don't create competition between themselves and your other important relationships. They don't position themselves as more understanding or appreciative than your family members. They don't encourage you to distance yourself from people who have been important in your life. Pay attention to how your relationship with him affects your relationships with your children. Does he enhance these relationships or create tension around them? Does he encourage you to maintain healthy boundaries with your adult children, or does he encourage you to distance yourself from them entirely? The health anxiety exploitation. As we age, most of us become more aware of health concerns and mortality. We might be dealing with chronic health conditions, caring for aging parents, or simply becoming more conscious of our own aging process. Sophisticated manipulators sometimes exploit health anxieties as a way to create dependence and urgency in relationships. He might express excessive concern about your health in ways that seem caring but actually create anxiety. He points out when you seem tired, suggests that you're under too much stress, or encourages you to see doctors for minor symptoms that you weren't previously worried about. Or conversely, he might minimize health concerns in ways that make you question your own judgment about your body and health needs. He might also use his own health concerns as manipulation tools, creating health crises that require your care and attention, or using health issues as excuses for inconsistent or unreliable behavior. Another form of health-related manipulation involves positioning himself as essential for your future health and well-being. He talks about being there to care for you if you become ill, about the health benefits of companionship and partnership, and about how lonely and isolated single women become as they age. The underlying message is that you need this relationship for your health and survival, creating fear about being alone and dependent on him for emotional and physical well-being. Healthy partners support your health and well-being without creating anxiety or dependence. They encourage you to take care of yourself and seek appropriate medical care, but they don't use health concerns as relationship leverage. The spiritual and personal growth manipulation. Many older women are on journeys of spiritual growth and personal development. We might be exploring new spiritual practices, working on personal healing, or seeking greater meaning and purpose in our lives. The sophisticated love bomber often positions himself as a spiritual or personal growth partner. He shares your interest in meditation, therapy, self-help books, spiritual practices, or personal development workshops. Initially, this shared interest feels wonderful. It seems like you've found someone who understands your journey and wants to grow alongside you. But pay attention to how he uses spiritual or personal growth concepts in your relationship. Does he use spiritual language to avoid taking responsibility for his behavior? Does he suggest that your relationship concerns are evidence that you need to work on yourself rather than evidence that his behavior is problematic? Does he position himself as more spiritually advanced or emotionally developed than you are? Does he use personal growth concepts to subtly criticize or correct you? For example, he might suggest that your concerns about his behavior show that you're not trusting enough, not letting go of control, not living in the present moment, or not accepting him as he is. He uses spiritual and psychological concepts as weapons to dismiss your legitimate relationship concerns. Another form of this manipulation involves love bombing through shared spiritual or growth experiences. He plans elaborate spiritual retreats, growth workshops, or transformative experiences that create artificial intimacy and bonding. These shared experiences feel profound and meaningful, but they're being used strategically to create emotional dependency rather than arising from genuine shared values and interests. The widowhood exploitation for women who are widows. There's often a specific form of manipulation that exploits grief, loneliness, and concerns about honoring the memory of a deceased spouse. The sophisticated love bomber initially seems very understanding and respectful of your loss. He doesn't rush you to get over your grief or pressure you to stop talking about your deceased husband. He seems to understand that your late spouse was an important part of your life and always will be. This understanding feels wonderful, especially if you've encountered men who were threatened by or impatient with your grief process. But gradually, he begins to use your widowhood status as manipulation leverage. He might suggest that your late husband would want you to be happy and wouldn't want you to be alone. He positions himself as the answer to what your husband would have wanted for you, or he might create competition between himself and your deceased spouse, suggesting that you're holding on to the past too tightly, or that you're not allowing yourself to fully experience love again. He might also use your grief and loss as an explanation for relationship problems, suggesting that your concerns or complaints are really about your unresolved grief rather than about his actual behavior. Another form of this manipulation involves rushing the relationship by suggesting that you've both experienced loss and understand how precious and fragile life is. He uses mortality awareness to create urgency around relationship commitment. Healthy partners respect your grief process and your continuing love for your deceased spouse. They don't use your loss as relationship leverage or create competition between themselves and your memories. Recognizing your own vulnerability. Now, I want to talk about something that might be difficult to hear, but is crucial for protecting yourself. Recognizing your own areas of vulnerability that make you susceptible to sophisticated love bombing. This isn't about blaming yourself or suggesting that you're responsible for someone else's manipulative behavior. Manipulation is always the responsibility of the manipulator, not the victim. But understanding your own vulnerabilities can help. You recognize when someone might be specifically targeting those areas and help you make better decisions about relationships. Common vulnerability areas for older women include loneliness and isolation, especially after divorce, widowhood, or major life transitions. If you've been alone for a while, you might be particularly susceptible to someone who provides intense attention and companionship. Concerns about aging and time running out. If you feel pressure to find love while you're still healthy and vital, you might be more likely to overlook red flags or rush relationship progression. Financial insecurity or concerns about retirement. If you're worried about financial security in your later years, you might be more susceptible to someone who seems to offer financial stability or partnership. Family relationship concerns. If you have complicated relationships with adult children or feel isolated from family, you might be particularly vulnerable to someone who seems to understand and support you. Previous relationship disappointments. If you've been hurt by previous partners or have experienced a pattern of unsatisfying relationships, you might be especially grateful for someone who seems different and more mature. Health concerns or caregiving responsibilities. If you're dealing with health issues or caring for aging parents, you might be particularly vulnerable to someone who offers support and understanding. Understanding your own vulnerability areas doesn't mean avoiding relationships or assuming the worst about potential partners. It means being aware of where you might be most likely to overlook red flags or rush into commitment, and taking extra care to maintain perspective and seek outside input in those areas. Warning signs. Checklist. Let me give you a practical checklist of warning signs that suggest you might be experiencing sophisticated love bombing rather than genuine interest and affection. Pacing and intensity warning signs. He seems more invested in the relationship than the timeline would suggest. He makes you feel like you're the most fascinating person he's ever met immediately. He's always available when you need him, with no other apparent commitments. He talks about your future together before you've established what kind of relationship you want. He introduces you to friends and family unusually quickly. He suggests major relationship steps like moving in together or combining finances earlier than feels natural. Communication. Warning signs. Most of your connection and intimacy happens through digital communication rather than in-person interaction. He remembers everything you tell him in ways that seem almost too perfect. He shares very personal information about his past very early in the relationship. He uses therapy language and relationship concepts, but his behavior doesn't match his words. He validates your feelings without changing problematic behaviors. He makes you feel like you have a special connection that others wouldn't understand. Relationship dynamic. Warning signs. You find yourself giving up activities or relationships to spend time with him. He seems to understand you better than friends and family who have known you for years. You're working harder to maintain the connection than he is. You feel like you need to prove that you're the special, understanding woman he fell for. You're constantly analyzing your interactions with him and wondering where you stand. You feel more anxious and insecure than confident and appreciated. Social and family warning signs. He subtly criticizes your friends and family while seeming supportive. You've stopped sharing relationship concerns with people who know you well. He becomes involved in your family relationships very quickly. He positions himself as more understanding or helpful than your other support system. Your friends or family express concerns about the relationship that you dismiss. Independence and autonomy warning signs. You find yourself asking for his opinion on decisions you used to make independently. He creates situations that require you to choose between him and your other commitments. You're sacrificing pieces of your independent life to maintain the relationship. He undermines your confidence in your own judgment while seeming supportive. You second-guess yourself in areas where you used to feel competent. Financial and practical warning signs. He pushes for financial entanglement or major life changes very early. He uses practical concerns about aging or retirement to create relationship urgency. His generosity comes with strings attached or creates obligation. He creates financial emergencies that require your help. He suggests that you need this relationship for your future security. Emotional and psychological warning signs. You find yourself questioning your memory of conversations and events. You feel like you're losing your sense of self in the relationship. You feel more drained than energized after spending time with him. He uses your insecurities and fears as relationship leverage. You feel like you're walking on eggshells to maintain his approval. You're making excuses for his behavior to yourself and others. If multiple items on this checklist resonate with your experience, it's worth taking a step back and seeking outside perspective from trusted friends, family members, or a therapist. Getting an outside perspective, one of the most important things you can do if you suspect you might be experiencing sophisticated love bombing, is to seek outside perspective from people who care about you and have your best interests at heart. I know this can be difficult, especially if you feel like people in your life don't understand your relationship, or if you've already distanced yourself from friends and family members who have expressed concerns. But here's the thing. Sophisticated manipulation is designed to make you feel like no one else understands what you have together, like your relationship is special and unique in ways that outsiders can't appreciate. That feeling of specialness and uniqueness is often a red flag rather than a sign that you've found something wonderful. Healthy relationships can be appreciated and understood by the people who love you. You should be able to share your happiness about your relationship with friends and family without feeling like you need to defend or explain it constantly. If you find yourself avoiding conversations about your relationship, making excuses for his behavior, or feeling like you can't be honest with people you trust about what's really happening in your relationship, these are warning signs. Try this. Have an honest conversation with someone who knows you well and has your best interests at heart. Tell them about your relationship concerns without defending or explaining them away. Ask for their honest opinion about what they observe. You might also consider working with a therapist who specializes in relationship issues and can help you sort through your feelings and experiences with professional objectivity. Remember, seeking outside perspective doesn't mean you have to follow anyone else's advice or make decisions based on what other people think. But getting input from people who aren't emotionally invested in your relationship can help you see patterns and dynamics that are difficult to recognize when you're in the middle of them. Recovery and moving forward. If you recognize yourself in any of these patterns, I want you to know that you're not alone, you're not stupid, and you're not permanently damaged by this experience. Sophisticated manipulation is designed to target your strengths, not your weaknesses. You are targeted because you're empathetic, caring, intelligent, and have a lot to offer in a relationship. These are wonderful qualities that make you capable of having healthy, loving relationships with people who appreciate and respect them. The first step in recovery is often simply recognizing and naming what happened to you. Understanding that you experienced manipulation can help you stop blaming yourself for the relationship problems and start focusing on healing and moving forward. It's normal to feel angry, hurt, confused, and embarrassed when you realize you've been manipulated. You might feel angry at him for deceiving you, angry at yourself for not seeing the signs sooner, hurt by the loss of what felt like a meaningful connection, confused about what was real and what was manipulation, and embarrassed that you fell for sophisticated lies. All of these feelings are normal and valid. Give yourself time and space to process them without judgment. It's also important to understand that recovery from sophisticated manipulation often involves rebuilding your trust in your own judgment. You might find yourself questioning your ability to evaluate people and relationships, worrying that you'll fall for manipulation again, or feeling like you can't trust your own instincts. This loss of confidence in your own judgment is one of the most damaging effects of sophisticated manipulation, but it's also something that can be healed with time and intentional work. Start by reconnecting with your support system. Reach out to friends and family members you might have distanced yourself from during the manipulative relationship. Be honest about what you experienced, and ask for their patience and support as you recover. Consider working with a therapist who understands manipulation and can help you process your experience and rebuild your confidence. Many women find that therapy helps them understand how they were targeted and manipulated while also helping them identify their strengths and rebuild their sense of self. Take time to reconnect with your own interests, values, and goals. Manipulation often involves gradually losing touch with who you are outside of the relationship. Spend time doing things that bring you joy and fulfillment, pursuing interests that matter to you, and reconnecting with your own values and priorities. Practice trusting your own judgment in small ways. Pay attention to your instincts and feelings in everyday situations. Notice when something feels off or uncomfortable, and honor those feelings instead of dismissing them. Most importantly, don't let this experience close you off to the possibility of healthy love and partnership. There are genuinely good, emotionally mature men out there who are capable of healthy relationships. Learning to recognize manipulation will help you identify and avoid unhealthy people, while also helping you appreciate and recognize genuine quality when you encounter it. Prevention strategies now. Let's talk about how to protect yourself from sophisticated love bombing in future relationships. The goal isn't to become cynical or closed off to love, but to develop better radar for recognizing manipulation so you can invest your time and energy in relationships that have genuine potential. Take your time. The best defense against love bombing is time. Manipulators rely on creating intense connections quickly, before you have time to observe their behavior patterns and consistency over time. Set your own pace for relationship progression, regardless of how much you're enjoying someone's company. Don't make major relationship decisions or commitments based on how you feel in the first few months of dating someone. Real love and compatibility will still be there in 6 months or a year. If someone pressures you to move faster than feels comfortable, that's a red flag regardless of how reasonable their explanations seem. Maintain your independence, keep your own life, interests, and relationships throughout the early stages of any new relationship. Don't sacrifice other commitments and relationships to spend time with a new partner, no matter how wonderful the time together feels. A healthy partner will encourage you to maintain your independence and will want to be integrated into your life rather than replacing it. Seek outside perspective. Share your dating experiences with trusted friends and family members. Ask for their honest opinions about people you're dating and really listen to their concerns, even if you don't agree with them. Sometimes people who care about you can see red flags that you miss because they're not emotionally invested in the relationship. Trust your body. Pay attention to how you feel physically and emotionally after spending time with someone. Do you feel energized and confident or drained and anxious? Do you feel more like yourself or less like yourself? Your body often recognizes manipulation before your mind does. Trust those feelings of uneasiness or exhaustion even if you can't logically explain them. Look for consistency. Pay more attention to patterns of behavior over time than to words and promises. Is this person consistently respectful, reliable, and honest in small things? Do their actions match their words over weeks and months? Consistency is one of the best indicators of character and genuine intentions. Maintain financial independence. Don't become financially entangled with someone until you've established genuine trust and commitment over time. Be wary of anyone who pushes for financial entanglement early or uses financial concerns to create relationship urgency. Set and maintain boundaries. Practice setting and maintaining boundaries from the beginning of any new relationship. See how potential partners respond when you say no, when you're not available, or when you need space or time for other commitments. Someone who respects your boundaries is much more likely to respect you overall. Someone who consistently pushes against your boundaries is showing you who they really are. Stay connected to your values. Regularly check in with yourself about whether your relationship experiences align with your values and goals. Are you becoming the person you want to be in this relationship, or are you compromising important parts of yourself? Learn the language of manipulation. Educate yourself about different forms of manipulation and emotional abuse so you can recognize them when they occur. The more you understand about how manipulation works, the better you'll be at identifying it early. Professional support. Consider working with a therapist even when you're not in crisis. Many women find that regular therapy helps them maintain perspective on their relationships and provides a safe space to process dating experiences and concerns. The bigger picture, I want to step back and talk about the bigger picture of what we've been discussing, because understanding sophisticated love bombing against older women is about more than just individual relationships. It's about recognizing a pattern of targeting and exploitation that affects many of us. The reality is that older women are often targeted by manipulative people because we have qualities and resources that are valuable to them. We often have emotional maturity, life experience, financial stability, established social networks, and the wisdom that comes with having lived through various life challenges. We're also often in life stages where we're looking for genuine partnership and companionship, which makes us open to people who seem to offer those things. Recognizing this pattern isn't meant to make you paranoid or cynical about relationships. It's meant to help you understand that if you've experienced this kind of manipulation, you're not alone, and it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's also important to understand that learning to recognize manipulation will actually make you better at identifying and appreciating genuine quality in people. When you understand the difference between love bombing and genuine interest, between manipulation and authentic emotion, and between future faking and real commitment, you become much better at recognizing the real thing when you encounter it. The goal isn't to protect yourself from all risk in relationships. Meaningful relationships always involve some vulnerability and risk. The goal is to learn to distinguish between healthy risk-taking and dangerous naivety, between reasonable vulnerability and manipulation-induced dependence. As we wrap up this conversation, I want to leave you with several important reminders. First, you deserve genuine love and respect. You deserve a partner who appreciates your intelligence, your independence, your life experience, and your wisdom. You deserve someone who adds to your life rather than diminishing it, who makes you feel more confident and capable rather than less so. Second, trust your instincts. You have decades of life experience and wisdom. If something feels off in a relationship, if you find yourself constantly questioning your own judgment, if you feel like you're losing yourself in the relationship, trust those feelings. They're often more accurate than logical analysis. Third, take your time. Real love and compatibility will withstand the test of time. Anyone who pressures you to move faster than feels comfortable is showing you something important about their priorities and intentions. Fourth, maintain your connections to people who knew you before this relationship and who will know you after it. Don't sacrifice your support system for any romantic relationship, no matter how wonderful it seems. Fifth, remember that you are complete and valuable on your own. You don't need a relationship to validate your worth or to ensure your security and happiness. Relationships should enhance your life, not rescue it. Finally, don't let one bad experience close you off to the possibility of healthy love. There are genuinely good people out there who are capable of healthy, reciprocal, respectful relationships. Learning to recognize manipulation helps you avoid unhealthy people, while also helping you recognize and appreciate healthy people when you meet them. You have so much wisdom, experience, and love to offer. You deserve a partner who recognizes and appreciates those gifts, who treats them with respect, and who offers genuine gifts of their own in return. Trust yourself. Take your time, seek support when you need it, and never settle for less than you deserve. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know this was a lot of information to process, and some of it might have been difficult to hear. But I hope it's been helpful in giving you tools to recognize manipulation and protect yourself in future relationships. If this video resonated with you, if it helped you see something clearly, or if it gave you that light bulb moment you needed, please hit that like button. Your likes help other women who need to hear this message find it, and they tell me that this content is making a real difference in your lives. I especially want to hear from you in the comments. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your questions. Have you recognized any of these patterns in your own relationships? What warning signs do you think are most important for women our age to watch for? Your insights and experiences help build a community where we all learn from each other. Please share this video with any woman in your life who might benefit from this message. Sometimes we're the voice that another woman needs to hear to recognize a situation she's been struggling to understand. If you're new to our channel, welcome to our family. We tackle the real conversations about relationships, self-worth, and living your best life as we navigate dating and relationships in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss content that could change your perspective on love and relationships. And if this content is really making a difference in your life, if these conversations are helping you make better decisions and live more empowered, please consider supporting our channel with super thanks. Every contribution helps us continue creating content that matters, that speaks truth, and that helps women live the lives they deserve. Remember, you are worthy of genuine love and respect. You deserve a partner who appreciates your wisdom, your strength, and all the incredible qualities you bring to a relationship. Trust yourself, take your time, and never settle for less than you deserve. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep choosing relationships that honor who you are and who you're becoming. Thank you for being part of this community, and I'll see you in the next video.